Okay, Tuesday edition of the After Show. Got Wake and Justice with you. Wake over here on the East Coast.
And Justice on the West Coast of the contiguous United States of America. It is red sky at Morning Tuesdays.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a red sky in everybody's morning somewhere in the world. How can that be for everybody? I don't know. We deal in hyperbole here, and sometimes we just blurt things out. We have a pretty good example of just blurting things out, don't we?
Yeah.
It pretty much permeates the rest of our society. But before we get into that, Wink, how are you doing?
Not bad, not bad. It is 63 degrees here in New York, 21. It is mostly sunny out there today, going up to about 67, 68. So we'll take that. Reminder to get in the chat. Just go to netrootsradio.com, scroll down the bottom of the page, and on the right-hand side of the bottom of the page, there is a link to the chat. So click that. Join us there.
And why not click the donate, contribute buttons to the left-ish of the chat room links? I know there's money involved, but that money is speech. And with that speech, we're able to convince the powers that be that we're paying our bills.
Right.
And I don't know, I guess it's maybe there's no human involved because they continue to let us do what we do. Phew. Better not have a Bloody Bill Crystal at the Weekly Standard manually fact check. We might be caught up. But we're not on Facebook so much, are we? Yeah, we are. But thank you for your generosity. We fooled them so far. Let's keep fooling them.
Yes.
Yep. All right. Well, here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, it is currently this is not true because this personal weather station is like towards Gold Hill, which is east of me, and it's got to be in a sheltered valley or something because it's not as cold as this one is registering in my garden, but this one says it's 31, and I went outside and it's I really think it's more like maybe 41. There's got to be a 10-degree swing there.
Yeah,
crazy. Now we are forecast for the area beyond the Gold Hill area. Fortunately, that will be a high of 71, which is much cooler than yesterday because, we got up to 74 yesterday, Wink. 74.
Yeah.
Let's see. It is actually quite cloudy right now. It feels like it wants to rain. And right now it's a 20% chance. Humidity is only at 57%. That's unusual. Though we go up to showers this evening early. So, that means I need to get the leaves have been saturating the yard from my and the neighbor's birch trees. And I have a plum tree, and it's shedding its leaves. Nice color red, too. They're very pretty. But I need to gather those up to throw in the compost pile before it rains. So that's my task for today.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Pressure is at 29.93 inches. Visibility down to 9 miles. This says clear with clouds, but I guess maybe there's not clouds, but there's looks like a cloud cover to me. So they said clouds. I think it's one cloud. So I see. Okay. There's no clouds. There's only one cloud. Humidity, once again, at 57%. Okay. Air index is at 11. There is some fires right at the Oregon-California border again, and we were smelling smoke last night that I attributed to possibly people's fireplaces. But then it occurred to me that might have been these several fires that are just at the border. Now, of course, wow. My old neighborhoods, I worked up and down both valleys as a chef and citizen of Northern California. I used to live in the town of Sonoma. I lived in Santa Rosa. I lived out past Monte Rio for a while with some friends. Not that was in the fire zone, but still. I don't know if you saw the pictures, Wink, of like Santa Rosa neighborhoods. Just there was a neighborhood there, and then there wasn't. And it wasn't just like, there's a few burned buildings. I mean, it took it down almost below the foundations. Get out of here.
Yikes, yeah.
And that happened quick. I mean, they're 78-mile-per-hour winds, or I think the sustained winds were more like around 50, which is stiff. And then you were getting gusts or sustained gusts at 78. Helped, as they say, spread the fire. And it had to jump the ridge between the two valleys of Napa and Sonoma. Actually, I don't think that's what happened. I think that there's several fires started, however, and then spread. But regardless, it's a tinderbox, apparently, Wink. So I expect Trump to make some sort of comment about, how, I don't know, we're evil and whatever, and he's the best thing. I don't know. I just expect whenever there's a calamity and you're on the left side of the political spectrum, expect to be insulted in some way. I expect it. That's what we live with now, Wink. It's crazy.
Right.
Okay. So weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations from around the world. And in some cases, they are not in the London proper, but, between now the airport, that's an hour drive. So I didn't take the airport, but I did get one who was just outside the outskirts of London. So, we're getting close. Okay. Just to be clear. Well, this fellow in London is registering 62 and overcast. Paris is 62 and overcast. Rome is 70 and partly cloudy. Kiev is 52 and clear. Kabul is 79 and clear. Hong Kong is 82 and clear. Tokyo is 76 and clear. But Sydney, Australia is 64 and overcast. San Francisco is 60 and clear, except they have a lot of smoke. And New York is 73 degrees Fahrenheit and clear. Very, very clear. And that is weather from around the world brought to you by people's personal weather stations, and they live around the world.
Right.
Oh, boy. Well, I like to say that we have another big day, but there are always big days, so it goes without saying. It's almost like saying I have a belly button.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. I mean, it's another big news day. It never ends.
Right.
Now, I got to tell you, Donald Trump swears he's not a moron and he's going to challenge the Secretary of State to an IQ test. Only a moron would do that.
Exactly.
I mean, that's a test right there. I mean, come on. I don't know. I must have viewed to a previous generation's idea of leadership and manhood. Like you lead by doing rather, now of course I'm full of bluster. I mean, let's be clear. But, when I was a jock, I didn't really want to play quarterback. I wanted someone else to be the leader in that situation because I thought, I could do more, as a receiver, or actually I was one of those, they put me in one of those hybrid athletic positions, where, I might lead on a block that, as a running back. They might give me the ball. They might throw a pass to me in the flat. They might split me out wide, and I was fast and, get downfield and take something long. Or, what I got to tell you, I don't know, this is hard to confess now, knowing all that I know. But there was something thrilling about running as fast as you could right into somebody. And I did that on offense. That's why they put me on defense when I, tried to play in college. Because I really liked running into people at full speed, And so I would do that, on offense. And I liked doing it. And I would do it with the ball. So they figured, well, let's see what he can do without the ball. And so they always had me, I'd be the guy that would have to chip off the middle linebacker. Now, get a lineman in there first, please. But no, they let me do that because I liked running into people. So, I mentioned this because I don't consider Trump to be, with his bluster and all that. Oh, this is the other thing. I didn't like the idea of gloating over someone that you might be lucky enough to get leverage on and put them on their back, right? Like I hated the idea of standing over him going, like I hated, topical subject, Mike Ditka. I hated the way that guy plays. He was a cheater. He bit people's fingers off. Of course he did say. And I actually know personally the Ram player that had his finger bitten off by Mike Ditka. Well, personally only because of family things and seen him in a public or a private setting. Ditka did say, why did the guy have his hand underneath my mask? But I think, biting the whole finger off is, going a little bit too far. It seems to me that would be like unsportsmanlike.
Yeah,
so I hated the way that Mike Ditka played. It to me, it wasn't American, and it certainly wasn't manly. There wasn't anything quiet about it. But, I'm old school that way. I admit it. I think now you're supposed to point fingers and, show the world what a great person you are, and the only person who can get things done. Only one. And then you're mad when things aren't done as soon as you sit down. Like, I was told this was all going to be done before I got here. God, oh my God. Well, actually, there are some people doing the hard work for this guy, the hard lifting. And it goes on, and we have to keep our eye on the ball. And these are the issues that we are attending to today. You think that it's just about, football. Yikes. God. It is a weird distraction in a way. I mean, it does kind of make me angry. I mean, what is this all about? It's a job issue. You're telling people they can't, well, I don't know. I suppose you can't really, hold up a sign on the shop floor. Strike! Maybe you could. They did. I mean, didn't she end up dead eventually? Maybe. Okay, the right-wing crusader behind gutting the key provision of the Voting Rights Act has now set his sights on slashing the number of elected minorities across the nation. Well, yeah. Okay. That's considered the right way. Yikes. Oh, you'll love this one. Virginia police issue an arrest warrant for the 20-year-old black schoolteacher brutally assaulted by neo-Nazis in Charlottesville. For what? For unlawful wounding of his head while fending off the clubbing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
You defended yourself. You had your head bashed in. There's some illegal, unlawful wounding there. We got to charge you. Well, the guy with the club, or one of the guys with the club said, this guy, he lashed out and, it looked like it had intent. He's a black guy. It's always with intent, of course. I mean, look, they're going to kill us in our sleep. We've been told this. There's generations of hate in their DNA. Don't you know? And the Charlottesville police charged him. Of course, the Charlottesville police didn't come to surround the synagogue to protect it from the neo-Nazis that night. Dreaded Antifa did. Whatever Antifa is. You mean anti-fascist? Oh, God. See what this guy does? You thought I editorialized before.
Yeah.
All right. And maybe this is why I'm going off. The organizers behind the armed white supremacist protest in Houston last May are revealed to be Russian citizens living in Russia. Okay. I mean, we're not talking just, hypotheticals here. We're talking about organizing a rally, getting people to, encourage them to bring their weapons. It's not just some hypothetical like, oh, well, they were like influenced and that's why the guy showed up at the Comet Pizza to shoot people for hiding the fact in his mind that Hillary had a child, kidnapping sex cult in the basement of Comet Pizza. But Comet Pizza is on a concrete slab and there is no basement. So try to figure that one out. I mean, they have an answer, right? But, right? And the guy shot up the place. Well, that was, not really directed. They They haven't been able to find a director. But we're talking in these other situations right now, this rally we're talking about in Houston, has actual directions from organizers and what to do, and with people operative that turn out to be, quote, operatives.
Right.
So, and it doesn't end there, and hasn't stopped either. Nice. Okay. Well, now I might have made a mistake. Yesterday I presaged that we would be visiting with Chris Reeves today, but he told me last week that he was going to be busy with a staff meeting because now he's on dKos staff.
Yep.
And it's really busy, So we don't get to visit with Chris Reeves today, but in his stead, we will report on, and this is a story that he wrote about, and I'll be linking to it, a Missouri Republican announcing his Women Belong in the Kitchen platform.
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds like Russian active measures to me, but...
Oh, yeah.
Michigan's top medical official is charged with involuntary manslaughter over the Flint water deaths. Wow, what is this, China? We're actually going to charge a criminal complaint, and, yikes. I thought only China did that. And to further the meme about, Russian active measures, a new study out of Oxford University reveals Russian propaganda engaged U.S. veterans and troops by exploiting social media. Yeah, well, we suspected it. Yep. I think it impacted some members of my family. Thanksgiving, wink. I got Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I'm hoping I can stuff enough turkey in me that I get a little sleepy and I'll just go and I'll be the only one watching football because everybody else is boycotting it now.
Right.
We'll see.
Right.
We'll see how much they're boycotting football on Thanksgiving.
Exactly.
All that. Plus the Connect, Unite, Act, dKos community calendar. And there's always more on the after show with that ever so fine fellow over there on the East Coast. His name is Wink. This guy back over here on the West Coast. My name is Justice, and we do this 5 days a week for an hour-ish in this particular specific and ever peculiar tear in the fabric of space-time, because who loves you, baby? Okay. I don't know. It's hard to keep up. I mean, we gotta get back to our idea of, for the terrestrial station breaks and stuff,
Yeah.
But it's hard to keep on time. Well, the latest right-wing effort to block democracy out of Alternate by Stephen Rosenfeld. The right-wing war on voting opened a new front by filing a lawsuit that, if successful, could make it more difficult to elect non-white candidates in California and across the nation. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. I guess if your poll numbers, Wink, are down around 28%, I mean, you're getting the most virulent, potent, concentrated part of the base now behind you. That's,
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
And though toxic and potent it may be, it still might not be enough. Ooh, so stoke racial divisions. How would you do that? I don't know. Send your vice president who's out in California, while some wildfires are raging and we're talking, whole swaths of cities. And send him out to walk out on a football game when he was supposed to be there to give one of the oldest Manning brothers some sort of kudos. Walked out on him in protest.
Yeah.
For players protesting. And, let's be clear. Black players protesting the systemic racism that is experienced in this country, as evidenced by the amount of black men and boys being killed at the hands of cops. It's not about soldiers. It's not about the anthem. It's not about the flag. But now it is, because dear leader said so. And we must all genuflect to dear leader. Yeah, I've been told to my face, we need a little bit more patriotism in our country. I go, yeah, nothing says patriotism like the black president is a Kenyan socialist. So get out of my face. I have no more F's to give you.
Right.
Your whole argument about Obama was predicated upon a lie. Our argument about this president is predicated upon the fact of criminal conduct before, during, and after this whole thing.
Yep. Yep. But no slowing down, that's for sure.
Yeah, like, Obama wasn't born here. And now the FBI is seeking criminal complaints against parties in the Trump orbit, and that's a conspiracy theory now. But the Kenyan socialist thing, oh yeah, well, we were just effing with you. Sure you were. Because the whole point, that's what rat effing is, isn't it? Do you think I was born yesterday? This is what bugs me. These kids like Stephen Miller, they're not doing anything different than the Socrates, except, they got like a really wacko guy who's got even more narcissism. At least Nixon knew process. Jesus. Killing me.
Yeah.
Killing me. Okay, the complaint was filed by a Virginia-based Project on Fair Representation. And I think by fair they mean like hewing to the pale part of the color spectrum. Like in the old Crayola 64 collection, the white sort of creamy color was called flesh.
Yeah.
And white. Fair representation, because the fair people in America, Wink, the Christians that have a church on practically every corner, especially in rural America, every corner downtown, in town, they are the most put upon, discriminated against elements in all of our society. Mike Ditka hasn't seen or knows of any oppression in the United States for the last 100 years. I guess he never talked to Gail Sayers.
Apparently not.
Apparently not. I don't really remember seeing, any picture of Ditka visiting Brian.
Right. Rick Tukula? What's this?
Yeah, in Brian's song. I don't remember them a rendition of him in the movie.
Right.
I saw Gail Sayers there though.
Yeah. Yep.
Cipollini? Brian Cipollini? I think it's Brian Cipollini. So, yeah, no oppression, Wink. Last 100 years, Mike Ditka.
Right.
So, never talked to Gail Sayers, who played in Chicago. Right? They all played in Chicago. And he saw no oppression. He knows of no oppression least in the last 100 years. I mean, we'll give you maybe I don't know, something. See, he can't even figure out. He should say like more like 140 years. A little bit before Reconstruction.
Right.
Well, of course he would say that. Mike Ditka's a dimwit. You look up dumb jock in the dictionary and it has a picture of Mike Ditka.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what Ditka means in whatever, I don't know, melding of Slavic cultures that's in his DNA means. Dimwit. Dumb jock. Yep. Or as Durison said, Mike Ditka didn't care about players, their health, when he was a coach. And then, of course, Ray Durison went and then shot himself in the heart so his brain could be preserved, which showed the level of CTE that had damaged his brain from all these concussions that he suffered. okay, we got to keep minorities from voting. You know, if there weren't minorities voting, we wouldn't have the problems we have right now, right?
Right.
Okay, well, the case nominally focuses on the small Southern California city of Poway. Yes, Poway, Poway, not Poway, Poway, where the mayor and city council said their previous at-large system worked and they resented being told what to do by the state. This hinges upon, in the Voting Rights Act, at-large districts that, you know, can be carved out at the exclusion of racial minorities. And this guy is taking a very hardline view about the Voting Rights Act, that it also says that you can't district, you know, specifically by race. And this hinges upon a definition of like, well, since there's no representation by minorities, you can't have an at-large district. So we have to create more districts that will encompass this geographical anomaly that has caused people to live in this area and are not represented. Right? That's what the 65 Voting Rights Act was about. And of course, these guys, you know, if we just kept, you know, just keep the black and brown people from voting, we wouldn't have these people yelling in our ear. We can make them shut up, you know, like their employees, like Jamel.
Right.
Shut her up. And she didn't call for a boycott of the Dallas Cowboys or their merchandise. But I don't know. Jerry Jones said that these players need to feel the consequences of not standing up to peer pressure. Peer pressure. Justice. They have the peer pressure of like their friends are telling them that they should have justice and equality. I thought they were men, not children. Jerry, with your paternalistic slave owner plantation attitude. I would think that maybe Jerry Jones needs to feel a little of the consequences of succumbing to peer pressure.
Exactly.
Okay. Bloom's lawsuit, this is the fellow who's been running this, shows the war on voting rights continues. Of course it does. It's all part of a whole. We're going to have to rewrite the player and put it into DC, wink. You know, we could just keep these people from voting. We'd have a democracy, wouldn't we? I always love these stories. You know, how dare you hit my hand with your head? There was a club in it. Well, that's even worse. You were trying to destroy property with your head in my hand. I had the property in my hand, and it came in connection with your head, and there's a definite crime there. Boy, I don't know. I think they should actually have that as a defense. When a black person and a white person are in a fight and the white person has a club, if the club comes in contact with any part of the black body, it's an assault on the club, which is property. And that has much more weight in law, as we know, because property is sacred. Black bodies aren't. This is by Elizabeth Preza out of Raw Story. Police in Charlottesville, Virginia, yesterday issued a warrant for 20-year-old Andre Harris, a black man who was beaten at a white nationalist rally in August. Now, some people say beaten, but I have this like genetic predisposition to say beaten. Damn. I'm working on it, folks. I'm working on it. Lieutenant Stephen Upman said an alleged victim went to the magistrate's office to describe the events leading up to a violent assault against Harris at the East Market Street parking garage. Video of that assault went viral in the aftermath of the violent white supremacist rally earlier this year. According to police, Harris is wanted for unlawful wounding. He is accused of attacking one of the men who participated in his assault. Now, I got to wrap my head around this. Isn't this the whole premise for being allowed to carry a gun? To defend yourself? But if you fend off a clubbed assault with your hands and your head, you have attacked and assaulted those people who are assaulting you by defending yourself? What the hell?
Yeah.
All right. Well, they have the video evidence. You know, he was attacking those clubs with his head. And in some cases, his back, his chest, his gonads, and his legs, mercilessly, too. This guy just would not stop assaulting those clubs. And the cops have no choice but to charge him. I mean, the video evidence is there. It went viral. We live on Bizarro World, Wink. Everything is effing backwards.
Indeed.
Oh, okay. Organizers behind armed white supremacist protest in Houston revealed as Russian. Casey Michael out of Think Progress. Last May, nearly 100 demonstrators gathered around the Islamic Dawa Center in downtown Houston, squaring off against one another in competing camps. The Stop Islamization of Texas protest was on its face largely similar to any number of other tense vitriolic demonstrations that percolated through 2016. On the one end, a crew carrying Confederate flags, White Lives Matter banners, and heavy weaponry. On the other, counter-protest with signs decrying Islamophobia, calling for communal unity, and a bubble machine going at full blast. Well, obviously, that proves how much collusion there is on the left wing. They even have bubbles with a liberal bias.
How about that?
And I got to tell you, there's nothing more threatening than a bubble machine at a protest. You got to have guns to fend off the obvious assault that's going to occur.
Right.
And I got to tell you, bubbles don't just go where you want them to go. And that's how the chaos and mayhem occurs. At least there's order and symmetry to the trajectory of bullets. Not this anarchic Antifa bubbles. God, this guy just makes me editorialize. Good thing there's not a whole lot of events in the calendar, huh? Now, this is not just being made up. I mean, I know, well, when I say made up, sometimes people just make it up off their head. But CNN, which is, I guess, one of the, leading organizations of fake news, meaning that they actually put effort in making it into fake news. They go out, interview people, get the evidence, and they come back and report it. And if it doesn't kiss dear leader's ass, it's fake news. Well, they are the ones that discovered that these people who are the organizers, which we also found out not by CNN, but, really early on during the campaign, the secessionist movement out here in California was run by a guy in Russia. I mean, he came out and visited a couple of times, purported to be a Californian, right? So this is just another part of that, what's it called again? Yes, active measure. And this particular group now has moved their Facebook account to Instagram. Now, I don't know what that means by moving it, because usually there's migration between those platforms anyway, and that's how the whole of the operation was effective. But I think they've gotten a little bit too much scrutiny on Facebook, so they moved their account to Instagram. So I don't know. Go there for some more fun and games. I mean, tit for tat, as far as I'm concerned. You play with us, we play back with you.
There you go. Yep.
All right, let's get to our Jim Hightower break. We'll come back and go through the Connect, Unite, Act, dKos community calendar and diary. And then we'll finish up with the last half, Sans, Chris Reeves. Oh, but he's busy doing the good work. All right, you're listening to the After Show on Netroots Radio with Wink and Justice, and we will be right back.
The self-described geniuses of Wall Street are being stupid again. In 2007, their stupid schemes and frauds crashed our economy, destroying middle-class jobs, wealth, and opportunities. Far from being punished, however, the scofflaws were bailed out by their Washington enablers. So the moral lesson they learned was clear. Stupid pays. Go stupid. Sure enough, here they come again. Rather than investing America's capital in real businesses to generate grassroots jobs and shared prosperity, Wall Street is siphoning billions of investment dollars into speculative nonsense, such as bundles of high-risk subprime auto loans. It works like this. Car dealers, eager to goose up sales, hawk new vehicles to lower-income people, offering quick loan approval even to those with poor credit ratings. Banks, eager to hook more people on monthly car payments, okay these subprime car loans without verifying the buyer's ability to pay. Then, a Wall Street bank's investment house buys up thousands of these iffy individual loans, bundles them into multi-million-dollar debt securities, and sells them to wealthy global speculators. Last year alone, banks sold $26 billion worth of these explosive bundles of car loans. This is a gaseous repeat of Wall Street's subprime mortgage bubble that burst a decade ago. The scam generates easy money at the start for speculators and banksters, but as more and more low-income buyers are unable to make their car payments, defaults build up and the whole financial bubble pops. This is Jim Hightower saying, wasting America's much-needed investment capital on a scheme that intentionally puts people in cars they can't afford with loans they can't repay is not only stupid, but immoral, and is killing our economy. Why are we letting elite Wall Street loan sharks do this to us?
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
Okay, we're back.
And indeed, we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. This is the After Show with Wink and Justice. Justice here along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon on the West Coast. Wink is in upstate New York, 21 on the East Coast. Our crew are the ethereal creatures who reside in the cloud, whose advanced intergalactic technical abilities allow Netroots Radio and thus by extension the After Show to span the globe, the solar system, and beyond. And we actually have Chris Reeves safely ensconced down. Now, he's still in the Midwest, of course, and there was a time zone issue. Oh, you're on the West Coast.
Yep, I'm in Oakland today. I'm at a staff meeting today.
Okay, when you said staff meeting, I didn't know if it was going to be telecommunicating or. Well, okay,
Nope.
Great. You're in my old stomping grounds, and we'll talk about the current weather that you're experiencing from overnight. So I'll get back to you in just a moment. Eric Lewis, a great cartoonist, is facilitating today's diary, and he opens up about how to stop Russia and unlikely heroes, Rob Reiner and Eric Fromm. So I've the Committee to Investigate Russia. I've been following them for their efforts and work, and so that's an interesting little essay. So do look at it. Now, New York City Cossacks are meeting up on Sunday, October 22nd, noon, Spitzer's Corner, 101 Rivington Street. Meet in the back room, wheelchair accessible. More info at the links that I have provided. And Cosmail Kath NY to RSVP. New England Cossacks meeting up November 4th in Kittery, right on the border with New Hampshire, at the Farm Bar and Grill at high noon. So RSVP at nhawks42@gmail.com. Oh, that's different. And San Francisco Cossacks are going to be welcoming T. Burchard to the Bay Area. Cosmail Navajo, if you'd like to attend, that will be on Saturday, November 4th, 6:30 p.m. Location to be determined, usually close to Embarcadero or Montgomery BART. So just so you know. And that is your Connect, Unite, Act Daily Coast Community Calendar for the 10th of October of 2017. And it's Red Sky Morning Tuesday, and we are indeed visiting with Chris Reeves, who is in Oakland, California, while Northern California went aflame overnight. I was mentioning earlier at the top, you're in my old hometown area. I lived in Berkeley as my home base for about 35 years. But I lived in the town of Sonoma. I worked as a professional chef up and down both valleys. My best friend's brother ran for the then 6th Congressional District against Lynn Woolsey in the primary out of Santa Rosa. And I know that county of Sonoma so intimately from putting signs in people's yards everywhere. And it's just, and I don't know, we survived the big fire in the Berkeley Hills where I live, just at the foothills of, but this is over a much wider land base. And people last night, and I don't know if you knew what was going on either, they didn't know the fires were so extensive. Ash was falling on their cars and they're choking on smoke and didn't know why. Did you get it pretty bad in the East Bay, or?
Well, I mean, we're having warnings of, air issues, but so far not as bad here, although I could definitely see it from the flight coming in. It was definitely visible. So
wow.
I have several friends in wine country, so it is concerning. It is also concerning that our president has managed to pick fights over, IQ tests and stuff this morning, but not one word about deaths, due to wildfire or any plan to do very much. So this is the attention span of our current government.
Well, priorities are priorities. I mean, there's no boats in Puerto Rico, right? And look at California. I mean, if they're not hewing the line, and I actually think we need to do the Dickens thing where we go on bended knee. Maybe not bended knee, because kneeling now is becoming anathema. But we got to do some sort of subservient body posture, and give great kudos to the big boss, and then say, "Can I have some more, sir?" I think it's the only way to get things done with this guy. Well, speaking of what we spoke a little bit during the break off air about the Trump zeitgeist, and I think the story about this Missouri Republican running for the state Senate on the Women Belong in the Kitchen platform. I don't know
Yep.
I don't know what country he comes to. The only real fights I had, I mean that were like actual arguments. I have to say, with both my wives, that's how successful in relationship I've been, was whose kitchen it was, right?
Right.
I'm serious.
Well, here's what's humorous about this. He gets asked about women's rights issues, and he says, well, I support women's rights, except for, of course, choice and birth control and all of those things. And then he tacks onto this by saying, but I'm going to tell you this, the one thing I demand is that when I get home at 6 o'clock, my wife has dinner ready for me. I'm the master of the house. And I expect the same will be true of my daughters. Okay, first, he has no daughters. He is engaged to be married. So it's not, he is talking about fictitious people and his plans on what they will do when they grow up, which is creepy.
Can you repeat that just for a second? You said he's currently engaged to be married?
He is currently engaged to be married.
And is there any prognosis for how long that's going to last?
Well, it will probably last because she is a hardened conservative columnist. She runs her own very pro-Trump cartoon series and things. But he talks about
maybe she can have dinner made by 6 o'clock. She can work her cartooning around it. Maybe, I guess.
Maybe, who knows? But he makes pronouncements about what his daughters will do. Realize he does not have daughters. Yeah. There are no children yet. He's just making pronouncements as to what will happen. And his whole platform is crazy.
Now this Senate district, what is the constituency? What's the?
This is the entire state of Missouri. He's running for the U.S. Senate.
I thought it was a state Senate seat. My God, he's running.
No.
I thought the Senate was supposed to be the hallowed institution of the landed gentry. What the hell has happened?
No. He is running to oppose Claire McCaskill. Now, there's already another Republican in the race, Josh Hawley, most likely. But what's humorous about this is apparently Steve Bannon has decided that Josh Hawley might not be conservative enough. And so Steve Bannon has met with this guy who put out a campaign video that looks like it should come from a parody website. I mean, it talks about war with North Korea and, it says immigrants, and it shows photos of urban uprising and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. It is just crazy, but that's okay. He thinks it will sell, and we'll see.
Now, I think the Trump zeitgeist is an apt term. Are people auditioning for crazy to get the Trump brand, and then?
Okay, here's what people have discovered, and this is the real danger for Republicans, and it's why Republicans are staying as conservative as they are. Trump is very unpopular nationally, but inside the Republican brand, and especially inside the Republican brand that votes in primaries, he is probably over 50% popular, maybe even more. So if you go into a Republican primary and you know that 50% plus one of those voters are wild Trump supporters, then the contest is who can be the most wild Trump supporter in a primary. And I think that we're going to see a lot of Republicans who are in the Senate and in the House next time face down some truly wild-eyed conservatives. I mean, like they just haven't seen before. And this is. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say, so this works on the local level. Do we have a strategy of exposing this so that on the national level, are we?
Well,
the Democratic end of it. Are we prepared for this?
I think that we are becoming prepared. I think that, we're going to find out in Alabama, which is not a great testing ground for this, where Judge Moore got all the way through, and could he be stopped by Jones? Maybe, it's possible. But in other states, if Claire McCaskill ends up running against this guy, then Claire's will have lucked into two of the greatest campaign options possible in running against Todd Aiken and then this guy. because she will run against lunatics. And all she has to do is get up and say, you can't vote for the lunatic.
Now, Bannon is supposed to be this great strategist of sorts and whatnot, but what is the end game for this? Is this just to chip away and, knowing that you're going to have a losing scenario? I can't imagine. I have my issues with Claire McCaskill. But,
right.
But I also believe that, that's why we are Democrats, because we got to learn to compromise and figure it out.
Look, on big issues, Claire is with us. We're going to disagree here and there, but she's a vote for our leadership. So there you go.
But in this race, are they just trying to chip away at constituencies and then over a period of time? I mean, is there I don't get it.
Yeah, well, look, nobody gets it. Nobody gets it. Because in the end, he's thinking, Bannon is thinking he can go into these bright red states and he can toss out conservatives with hyper conservatives, as he refers. He calls them, I think isn't it hyper? Isn't that the word he uses? Hyper conservative, or hyper superpower, whatever it was. That's what he's trying to do.
Is he cavalier because of Mercer money and data analytics?
I think that's
expertise?
I think that's part of it. I think it's also one where he knows, or he feels as though he knows, that if he can get these people shepherded through primaries and they become the general election candidate, that he can force the entire Republican Party even farther to the right. And if that isn't terrifying, geez. But that's
something else
his goal,
occurred to me too, though it's not necessarily a Bannon thing, but there's money to be had with rubes.
Oh my God, there's tons of money
with the rubes that come to this kind of gathering.
Yeah, no, there's tons of money. And now what Bannon can do is sell his services to all of these people at premium dollar, and he'll get it. I mean, as far as this goes, this is a great opportunity for a cash grab for him, a great cash grab opportunity.
Hey, let's shift gears a little bit. I made the joke, we usually don't make criminal indictments against elected officials for criminal conduct, especially when there's homicide involved. Michigan's top medical official it hasn't actually been charged, but is going to be charged with involuntary manslaughter. This is a second person actually in a government position to be charged thusly, though this is the top medical examiner. This is a bit unusual, isn't it?
Yes, and very unusual.
I mean, surprisingly, and I think in a good way, but so it somewhat puts the lie to Snyder's ignorance or ill knowledge of the events too, is from what I'm understanding in this event. I know you probably don't have anything privy, but it's out in your area. What can you tell us about this?
Well, I think a lot of these kind of cases like that one, and of course I don't have anything privy, but it's one of the ones that we're following. You're going to see a lot of, I don't want to put this, the one thing that Republicans keep screaming is that they're the law and order, they're the law and order. That's
Right.
something that they've screamed for years. And yet we're finding most of the dangerous law and order breaking going on their side of the aisle. And I think this is an opportunity for a lot of Democrats to start discussing, hey, what is law and order? What does law and order actually look like? Because it's not just, an hour-long show where people get thrown in prison. There's also elements of understanding what the heck is at stake, compassion, the nature of the crime. And you're seeing Republicans commit major crimes and think that they can allegedly commit major crimes and try and get away with them. It's not just this case. We're seeing other Republicans, and we forget this too, by the way. We had the incident last week where a Republican was outed over a sex scandal where he demanded his mistress have an abortion, even though he was anti-choice. Okay,
he was cheating with a mistress on another mistress while he was cheating on his wife.
Right.
I mean, it's I'm sorry,
but see, we forget, and I mean, it'll never come up in court.
Right.
But we forget that the moment that somebody tries to extort someone else of you're going to do a medical procedure, or else. That's not necessarily law abiding. It's not just that it's unethical and those kind of things and rank hypocrisy. It's also one where, let me put it this way. If I went to you and said, you're going to give me your kidney or else, someone would say, hey, wait a second, you can't do that. Well, in essence, some of that's what happened. Hey, I expect you to do, this, and the implied what else makes it a problem. But Republicans get away with it because it's what, they've marketed themselves as a law and order. I think all of these cases everywhere give us a new chance to talk about what the hell law and order actually is.
Well, we know, and whenever I heard it back then, it was a rhetorical flourish that really carried no moral weight. And maybe we didn't argue it vociferously enough for what it really was, a marketing term instead of, an actual thing, So whenever I hear law and order still, by their actions today gives proof to that assessment I had back in the day. It was really just nothing more than a rhetorical flourish to shut the stupid hippies up. So. Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're almost running out of time, but we have a little bit of a buffer. So let me ask you, okay, how are we going to connect, unite, act, and grow our shared future?
Yep. So, of course, I'm actually here in Oakland here in about 2 or 3 minutes. I got to walk into a meeting. But one of the things that we're going to talk about here is how do we take the community groups that we have and the community groups that are affiliated with us, and how do we grow? How do we make those more effective? How do we expand our reach into not just an online forum, but also into our state houses, into the U.S. House, into the U.S. Senate, even into the presidency? How do we make that happen? And that's one of the things that we've got to start focusing on. How do we build effective groups of activism? And I'm really excited about the kind of opportunities we have ahead. I think that there are major changes for the good about how we can start using our Connect, Unite, Act groups to make change within their communities. And I think one of the things that we haven't had before that we're going to really start working on is how do we provide them a template and a way to move forward so that they're more than just, hey, we all meet and we're friendly. They're also and here's something we can actually do. And I think when we start to focus on here's things that they can do, and we start getting these Connect, Unite, Act groups some opportunities to succeed or to lead, it helps them grow and expand. And I'm really looking forward to what I think we can do on that front.
Well, as you gave us a reminder in your diary on this, we're less than a month away from elections in Virginia, New Jersey, special elections, states like Utah, Alabama, months away from a return to our state houses in most states. And the next wave of conservative attacks on our liberties and the future of our children. We are in this together. Let's do this. Indeed. Thank you, Chris. Well, we'll visit with you and talk more about this and other issues next week. And have a good
See you then.
Have a good staff meeting.
Thank you, sir.
I will. Thanks.
All right, folks, we better bug out of here. We're not too far into our little buffer period, but I got a few dials to push, or dials to turn, and buttons to push, as they say, behind the curtain. And in the interim, we'll have Blossom's Typicus as the little musical interlude before Hartman comes up about 6 minutes after the hour. Of course, they are building a studio in Portland, Oregon, and they're going to have two, and D.C. and in Portland. And he has a fill-in for us this week. Other people have to have just best ofs, but we get the actual live show with his stand-in, and that's great. So I guess that's because, fine radio stations can be found that way, can't they? All right. It is Tuesday, and there's great content today all the way till tomorrow until we see you here same time, same station. And so continue listening to Netroots Radio 24/7, 365. And why? Well, because who loves you, baby? Okay, Wink. One other thing. I'll see you on the other side.
All right. Rope.